So I don't know about you guys, but sometimes it feels like we're living in one techno hellscape of a world, doesn't it? I mean, everyone is just so immersed in their devices, and with that, depression and anxiety levels are going up fast. Many folks are feeling more unfulfilled and stressed out than ever, but everything's just moving so fast that there's no time to take a step back and assess exactly why that may be. So part of this channel and what I talk about here is that I believe that a lot of that centers around technology, namely the increase of technology. And it's not just all technology. I'm not here to say technology is bad. That's not at all the argument I want to make. But because of unbridled tech, with no time to reflect, that's where I think the problem lies. Today, I want to talk about a community of people who I think are doing an exemplary job at mediating their relationship with technology. The Amish. Now, I know what you're thinking. The Amish, they just plain don't consume tech at all. That's not the solution. That's not any kind of solution. Well, that's what most people think. The truth is that we have a very limited understanding of the Amish people and what their relationship with technology actually is. Let's explore that today. If you don't know me, I'm Spencer, and I like to talk about simple living, frugality, and ways in which you can distance yourself a little bit from technology. So with the Amish, and for the most part their counterparts, the Mennonites, who there's a lot more of those actually around here where I live, they're all going to take their extent of their tech usage different from one community to the other. Each community ultimately decides for themselves to what degree they will relate to any new technology that they decide to implement. However, though their implementation may be different, these communities for the most part use the same set of guiding principles to determine what that relationship with tech will be. So starting there, what do the Amish actually do? What kind of thought process do they have when they're deciding what technologies they're going to implement and which ones they're going to turn away? First of all, they're thinking practically of how these new technologies would affect their religion and their way of life. That is core to the Amish belief system. But what I really want to focus on today is the question that they ask of how will this new technology benefit or harm our families and community? The Amish order have guiding tenets sort of that really outline the values of their communities. Allegiance to family and community, cooperation and sharing resources, humility, simplicity, thrift, contemplation, and compliance with their cultural norms. You see, most people think that the Amish have a blanket ban on all technologies, and that simply is not the case. What the Amish do is they assess the new technology based on the criteria that I just outlined, and they decide whether this will harm or benefit their values and their way of life. If something seems beneficial, then they very well may adopt it, but if it seems like it's going to be harmful, antithetical to their beliefs, then they'll leave it behind. Let's call the process that the Amish use to decide what technologies are going to be implemented or not selective adoption. This contrasts with the way that we handle new technologies in our society, where new things are labeled to be innovations or markers of progress. Using words like these to describe technology just sets us off on a bad foot already with our relationship because it labels people who instantly adopt these technologies to be forward thinking, and people who are skeptical and maybe don't want to adopt every technology that comes about, they get labeled as backwards. They get labeled as Luddites, which honestly isn't such a bad thing, but that's for another video. In our society, we accept so many new things without question. Any new technology, moving to streaming services and subscription-only based models, and more. We just move along with the crowd, not thinking about where we're ultimately headed, or not even really questioning whether the direction is a good decision at all. Even more, many people aren't even clear on their own values, so we really have no idea what direction we should be headed in our lives without being told by someone else. So assessing new technologies based on their firm values is a key practice for the Amish deciding what technologies they will adopt and what they're going to leave behind. So generally this, having a value statement that you can assess and hold new technologies to whenever they come about is the way that the Amish are able to look at new technologies and decide whether or not to implement them in their households and their communities. But what types of technologies are Amish communities choosing to adopt? Well, oftentimes many Amish communities will adopt certain practical technologies, like gasoline-powered farm equipment to help with their workloads, or perhaps certain types of motorized craftsman tools as well. As you can imagine, these tools would have very little implication on dividing the community in any way or creating any value issues with the things that I mentioned earlier. Some Amish communities even have landline phones. Now, this isn't going to be just one household line shared by one family. This is going to be something that's used by multiple families or even for the entire community to use. Now, a landline phone can be used to coordinate the pickups of certain goods or communicate with some far off relatives. But the fact that Amish communities literally distance themselves from this technology by choosing to not have it in their homes, it prevents people from becoming isolated from using technology. A phone can be a very powerful tool to help you connect with others, but it can also be very much a disconnecting thing that can completely separate you from the people and things that are literally all around you. It can be quite a disruptive device while also being a very useful tool. So by mediating their relationship with this technology, the Amish have found a way that the pros outweigh the cons. Even things like computers can be found in Amish communities. In fact, there's one or two manufacturers at least who make an Amish specific computer. Now, this is a device which is going to be restricted from internet usage, but it can be used for word processing and spreadsheets so they can conduct business and manage personal documents. So with all this in mind, what strategies from Amish communities can you implement in your own relationship with modern tech? I think that the main thing to recognize is that the Amish communities have a core set of guiding values or principles that they use to assess their relationship with technology. This allows them to set hard boundaries with the technologies that they adopt or choose to not use. So I think you should take some time and get clear on what your values actually are. Maybe consider writing down some sort of mission statement, some sort of personal ethic for how you want to live your life. I think that this is going to be one of the best ways to look at the technologies that you're already using in your life or considering adopting in the future and determine how they align with your values and whether you're going to proceed with using them. So clearly articulate your values, what exactly your values are in life, and then see how your tech behaviors are impacting them. Next, I think it's important to look at Amish communities as people who have chosen to set firm boundaries around technologies and they maintain them. At a time where so many people are facing some kind of digital addiction, I think it's important to be deliberate with how we consume tech. You can use tech for a source of information, education, or even a level of entertainment, but make sure that you set clear boundaries and you stick to them. In our world, being intentional is very important. So use the example of the Amish as a way to cultivate some level of discipline around digital distractions. Finally, I think we can take some inspiration from Amish communities in their prioritization of human interaction, true face-to-face communication. I mean, they're the ultimate analog people, okay? They've won the game. I'm out. They've won the game. But just because we live in a smart world, folks, it doesn't mean that we shouldn't be prioritizing meaningful human interaction over constant connectivity. So that's about it for today, folks. Just a few of my thoughts on the Amish communities and their decisions to have selective adoption of technology. What did you guys think of this video? Are there any things that you think I missed that you find interesting about the Amish communities and how they relate to technology? Or do you think that I am an Amish sleeper agent? I am just trying to turn all of you guys into neo-Luddites. I'd love to hear from you either way. Let me know in the comments. Thanks very much for watching, folks, and I'll see you in the next video.